You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast on Northeast Streaming Sports.
This week's episode is a tribute to the life of Joseph Hudson, who we know as Josephus, and more recently the question mark in NWA Powerrr. He passed away this past week, and this episode is in memory of him.
You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast. It's time for British Wrestling's sharpshooter, your host, Stu Palmer.
Welcome. It is episode 76 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast, and my guest is coming all the way from Macon, Georgia. It's former ROH Ring of Honor talent Sal Rinauro, who is now in NWA Powerrr, and we can't wait for NWA Powerrr to come back. You'll get to hear about Sal's career. He's been in the business for 21 years. What a career he's had. He wrestled in the NWA years ago for NWA Wildside, some great stories. Compliments from the great Nigel McGuinness as well. They had many matches over the years, and Nigel McGuinness was very kind. You'll get to hear about what Nigel said to Sal. Just so much good vibes from Sal. I'm very high energy, as you know by listening and viewing the show. You get to see that every week, but Sal takes high energy to the next level. So, without further ado, my guest all the way from Macon, Georgia, in the good old US of A, it is Mr. Sal Rinauro of NWA Powerrr. Enjoy. My guest all the way from Macon, Georgia, it's a wrestling veteran. What hasn't this guy done? You're going to find out soon enough on Stu's Wrestling Podcast today. It is Sal Rinauro. I am buzzing to have you on, man.
Stop, Stu. I'm so glad to be here. I'm excited. I got tons of stories, and like 2 or 3 of them were even flattering about me, so I'm glad to share them.
I'm not blowing smoke. I'm a big fan, and I've had several people from the NWA Powerrr crew on, so it's just fantastic, man. I want to ask what's been happening in the last 12 months for you, because NWA Powerrr was rocking and rolling at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean it's so crazy how untangible momentum is, and yet it's everything. And I know, like, especially for me, I'm a guy on my back 9, so I've seen the ups and downs of a lot of companies, and like you can feel the momentum. That last set of tapings, like I remember sitting there in the stands before they opened the doors, thinking, "Man, we were really hitting on something. Like there's something special here." And then the bottom fell out. Hopefully, soon we'll be back. At least that's the words I'm told. Soon we'll be back. The last 12 months, when Powerrr went down, I had just broken my arm. So I was actually out of action pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So everybody that was missing out on wrestling starting, March, I just had a 2-month jump start on them, which was a nightmare in itself. But I got cleared in April, and I've been picking up stuff here and there, mainly around the Georgia area. Georgia hasn't been as locked down as some of the other states, so I've been pretty active, especially these last 6 months, with a couple different local companies. Luke Gallows has got his own little show that he's doing in Georgia, and I've been, Gallows. I've known Gallows basically since Deep South, so I've known him a long time, and he's always really good to me, and he's got me on his shows.
That's Lariato Pro, isn't it? That one.
Yeah.
I know Mac Davis. I'm friendly.
Okay, yeah.
I know Mac very well.
I actually, if you ask Mac Davis about me, there's a story. I mean, we're talking 2002, I think, maybe even before then. We were doing a little spot show, and I had just won the NWA Wildside Junior Heavyweight title maybe 2 months before that, and the promoter had hit me and a couple buddies up from Wildside and said, "Hey, we're going to do this invasion angle," and I was like, "Oh, how brilliant and original! You're a clever booker." But, we want to do an NWA Wildside invasion angle, and we're going to have you be the mouthpiece and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's cool. And so they snuck us in the back door to cut an in-ring promo. And he was like, I want it as vulgar and as nasty and just, I want you to give everybody the business because I want to start this thing off hot. I said, okay, that's fine. So we get in there and I start cutting this promo. You know, '02 was a different world. But, you know, just jabs and uppercuts. And, every punch you could think of, I'm throwing at these guys. And Mac Davis just happened to be one of the guys in the ring. And I'm halfway through this diatribe, and I could just sense the room. And I'm looking at these guys in the ring, and I'm like, something's not right here. So I kind of, I kind of give my guys the, hey, let's cut this out a little quick. So we leave and we circle around and go to the locker room. And all the guys that were in the ring, including Mac Davis, bust through the locker room door, and they're ready to throw hands. And I'm like, whoa, wait.
I just got the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah, I don't mean any of this. I don't care. You're the best wrestling promotion in the world. I don't care. Why are we fighting? And I guess the promoter didn't smarten up any of the boys. So they think we're for real in here, burying the company and burying their wrestling. And I don't care. Like, no. Here, you can have the junior title. I don't care. Please, you win. You're the best. Go ahead. That was my introduction to Mac Davis. So
that sounds like the Wild West days. You were going in there like it was the 70s and 80s.
No, absolutely. And it's funny just because I was born and raised in California. So when I moved to Georgia and I got indoctrinated into the indie scene here, it was the definition of Wild West days, especially with the promoters that were still in that 70s and 80s mindset where, you can't go wrestle here because you're my champion here. And all those crazy stories you hear, I experienced in the 2000s. And it's like, wait, that's not how this works anymore, guys. The internet's a thing.
That's incredible, man. I want to go right back, Sal. I know you've covered NWA Wildside. Now we'll get back to that in a bit more length. When did you first see pro wrestling as a kid? What was your first experience? I love asking the guys this.
Yeah, no. So I hate to be very blanket with this answer, but I honestly don't remember it was just a thing that was. Like I can't remember a time where I wasn't into pro wrestling. I remember like some of my earliest foggy memories are Bam Bam Bigelow. Yeah. On Superstars and things of that nature. I mean, I just, as an 80s baby, kind of, I was watching during that boom period, like I don't remember watching WrestleMania 3. I've been told that we got that pay-per-view and, but I was 3 at the time. So it's not like I was glued in, but I mean, I just remember Saturday mornings at noon. That was, I'd wake up, I'd watch my Saturday morning cartoons, and at noon on Fox was wrestling. And so that was just part of the routine. Saturday started for me after 1:00. The rest of the morning was cartoons, cereal, and wrestling.
I was the same, early 90s with it. We used to get it. It'd be the weekends, like obviously Superstars, Wrestling Challenge. We did get all that. So I'm with you on that from fan perspective. That was the kids. The kids don't get it like we used to get TV.
It's crazy.
Our TV time back then was well better in the 80s and 90s. I've got 3 kids of my own, and I've tried at length to explain to them, like, you guys just don't understand. Like, what a treat Saturday morning used to be. Like, that's what drove your whole week. When you're on Wednesday, you're like, oh, I'm never going to make it through this week. You remember, like, oh, there's a new Pee-wee's Playhouse Saturday morning. I can make it. I can get there. Or the He-Mans or the Ninja Turtles. I mean, that's just the stuff that was, and then of course, on top of all that, then I got to see the real He-Man and the real, then I got to watch wrestling, which was all the cartoons I watched in reality. Now, it's now I'm a crazy old man. Get off my lawn, you kids with your cellular phones. But yeah, it's just
it's funny seeing just thinking about the differences of what was and what's now. But I'm so glad that I was able to come up in that era where, I mean, I literally watched Hulk Hogan every week. I saw the Flairs. I saw all these guys in their prime, and I just got to watch it and not even understand why I was watching it, and I'm a big Savage guy. So just getting to all the Savage stuff.
Oh my days! In California, when you were living there as a kid, did you go to the shows? Did you go to the big shows?
Yeah, I went to the LA Sports. So and I mean this was a little later on, but I was at WrestleMania 12 at Arrowhead Pond. Still my favorite. Like my buddy makes fun of me because that's my favorite WrestleMania, but it's more because like I was a Shawn Michaels guy too. So like the boyhood dream, that whole angle with, him getting kicked in the head by Owen and then him coming back. I mean, that's talking about peak fandom stuff because I was a Rockers guy. And then right when Shawn turned is when my mentality, I started to get older. So I started to dig the heels more so. So I'm like, yeah, this is my dude. And so just to watch him go from the tag team guy to the Intercontinental guy, to chasing the heavyweight title, to finally getting this shot at WrestleMania, and I'm there. Like that will forever be like my like what a great moment. But great, and I tell him this too. Like I was at WrestleMania 12, but I think I was actually seated higher than Shawn coming down from the rafters. Yeah, I was way up there.
What a WrestleMania that was. I mean, I've gone to 7. I've travelled over. But,
okay, yeah.
But for you to be there in 96 for that, and Bret, I said this to Kyle a few weeks ago. I say it to everybody. Bret Hart is still my top guy, man. Even now, man. I was there. I was at SummerSlam 92. I was at Wembley Stadium.
Awesome.
So I got to see, that is still one of my favorite matches. Him and Bulldog,
Absolutely.
man. That was.
I actually just watched that. So when they started putting out all the old superstars on the network, I said I'd be a sucker not to go back and watch this. So I've been chronologically watching all the superstars. So I just probably 2 weeks ago rewatched that SummerSlam.
Oh man!
And I mean, talk about a match that holds up.
I was just going to say,
it's so good.
You could put that on a card now, and it wouldn't look out of place. A bit like similarly. I know him and Perfect had 2 standout matches, but going to SummerSlam 91, that still holds up.
Absolutely.
Bret and Piper at WrestleMania 8. Sal, what a match. What a match.
Yeah. Well, and then, I mean, and like we said, circling back, Shawn and Bret at WrestleMania.
Oh, my days.
And that's one of those things, like I remember, so I was 13 at the time, in the crowd, losing my mind, the boyhood dream, and I didn't get to hear the call at the time, but just, Shawn's on his knees and he's holding that belt. And in my brain, like, I know I was clearly a hardcore fan at that point already, but that's kind of that moment where I was like, yep, that's it. There's no other option for me. I've got to be a wrestler when I grow up, like I talked about it. But prior to it as a child, like I remember in first grade, the teachers, oh, what are you going to be when you grow up? And one kid was going to be a dinosaur. One kid was going to be, I was going to be a pro wrestler. The teacher was like, yeah, that guy's probably got a better shot of being a dinosaur. But WrestleMania 12 was kind of, I mean, it was the accumulation of all of it for me, where I kind of walking out the doors that day, I kind of knew like, oh, I'm screwed. This is it. Like, I gotta be a wrestler.
More power to you guys doing it. I idolize you all being in the business. I mean that hand on heart as well. For you to do it as a career and to put food on the table. And the business has had its ups and downs like anything, hasn't it? So testament to you, the length of time you've been in there. Sal, any other guys that stood out for you? Maybe some tag teams. I know you said about the Rockers.
Yeah. So, like, there's all sorts of, it's funny, like, because even as a kid, like, there were some heels I always dug, and now, as an adult, I've understood why, but, like, so I loved Rick Rude. I was so enamored with Rick Rude, and it was because he always changed his gear. Like, I'm a big gear guy, And like, he always had the robes and he always had new gear. So like a guy like Rick Rude, like I said, the Rockers, this is a big secret that, I try not to share with many people, but I always dug Demolition more than the Legion of Doom.
I love Legion of Doom, but I met Demolition back in 2015. Great guys, but yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah,
I agree. I agree. They were up there, man.
Yeah, Axe lives here in Georgia, so I've done, the last 10 years, I probably run into him 4 or 5 times a year, and he's always just a good dude. And like in my adulthood, I'm such a big fan. That new generation is really just kind of like, for whatever reason, I love the new generation. That's just really my bread and butter era. Like, Savage will always be Savage, and that was the guy, and Hogan, and but like that new generation era, nobody could be bad. I loved everybody. So like, I'm a big Bob Backlund guy. Crazy Bob Backlund is such good television. And as a Christmas present a few years ago, my buddy gifted me a Best of Bob Backlund set, and it had him versus Masked Superstar in a cage in the Garden. So I got the chance to talk to, when I was talking, I was on one of those shows with Axe, and I was like, hey man, actually this is a 2-part story. I'll get into it. It's a funny story. But with one of the first shows I saw him on, I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, I know this means nothing coming from me, but I just watched you and Backlund in the cage at the Garden, and that stuff is so good. And he was like, man, and he almost seemed taken aback. He was like, everybody only wants to talk to me about my Demolition days. Yeah. But I had this whole career before it, and I'm genuinely proud of that match. So thank you for saying that. That means a lot to me. But I say it's funny. So on that same show, I used to run with Jimmy Rave. Jimmy Rave and I, best friends. I mean, he was the best man at my wedding. I've just known Jimmy forever. Jimmy's, kind of my wrestling father. I say father, but I'm older than him, but I digress. But I mean, he was like my guy. And so for a long time, the assassin, Hamilton, Jody Hamilton, mentored me for whatever reason. Jody Hamilton fell in love with me and would always get me booked on his weird shows in Deep South and this, that, and the third, and always pulled me aside. Great guy. But for whatever reason, Jody Hamilton was a fan of mine. Well, we also had a buddy named Kyle Matthews, who Ted Allen, one of the Nightmares, that became his wrestling dad somehow. And so the big rib was, hey, we've got these masked guys that are our wrestling fathers. Jimmy, we need to get you a masked wrestling dad. That you got to be part of the group, man. Only the cool kids have masked wrestling dad. So when we saw we were booked for this show, I was like, Jimmy, here's your chance. You can be Masked Superstar's wrestling son. It all makes sense. And Jody was there too. So I was like, we've got the in. We will use Jody to get to Superstar. This is a no lose situation. Well, at the same time, Jody was also telling me he wanted to be more serious in the ring and, a little less gaga and more, focusing on a body part and old school style. Well, Jimmy and I had laid out this match because I just happened to be working Jimmy that night. So Jimmy and I had worked out this match where it was more aggressive, more hard hitting, more mat based. And then at intermission, Jody and Superstar left. Said, Jimmy, change your plans. And we went back to our, I'm not a chicken and the gaga stuff. And funny enough, so that night there was no barricades around the ring. And Jimmy at this time, he was doing the rock and rave stuff in TNA.
Yeah, and remember it well.
So he was the baby face that night because he's trying to sell 8x10s. And hey, Daddy, let's move you some 8x10s. So Jimmy and I do this 20-minute match, and we start off with the gaga, but then we get into the bing bang boom, the high spots, this, that, and the third. And at the end, he hits me with the finish, 1, 2, 3, and the people rush the ring. And they're, and not in anger, they're celebrating, but everybody's on the apron slapping the ring. And Jimmy's celebrating this moment like a gladiator. And I'm like, Jimmy, how am I going to get out of here? Pied Piper, go take these people away so I can slip out the back door.
It's incredible, man. It's incredible. I want to get back to you spoke about NWA Wildside. I thought that'd be a good starting point because that was obviously early in your career. And how was it being junior heavyweight champion there? And we got NWA Wildside on the wrestling channel.
Oh, very cool.
Round 0203. So I can remember some of it.
So one of the reasons I moved to Georgia, and it's crazy, just I don't consider myself a smart person, but every once in a while I have an idea. Like, hey, that's a good one. So when I was 15, I was already out on my own as far as, I wasn't living at home. There was just a bad situation. So I was already training and I was already out on my own. This is in California. Mm-hmm. And my grandmother and my grandfather both lived in Georgia. My grandfather had Parkinson's disease and my grandma got sick and they needed help. And I had this great idea that, hey man, WCW is based in Atlanta. This is 98. I'm like, yeah, they got a cruiserweight division. If I want to get in, I've got a better opportunity of getting a job there than I do with WWE at this point. I'm 5'8". At this point, I'm 15 years old and probably not 100 pounds yet. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to move to Georgia so I can get on with WCW. Right? That's what every 15-year-old should. That's just what a great thought. So I loaded up the truck and I moved out east. And at that point, WCW they ended up having a full developmental deal, but they had a working relationship with Wildside. So I said, that's the place I got to get on. I want to get on there because, that's the next step. Get on there, get over there. Then you can start the WCW thing. Well, of course, as luck has it, WCW folds its doors, but I was lucky enough to, get into Wildside before then. So I got to do one of the most vivid memories is one of my first Wildside shows I do. I walk up these rickety old stairs because Wildside was in a church that was about this big. It was an old abandoned church that they put a wrestling ring in and said it's an arena. And it's crazy to think about some of the names that have walked through those doors. But the first day I walk up the rickety old steps and the first person I run into is Bob Sapp. And he's sitting down and changing and he's still 8 feet taller than me. I just screamed hello and waited till the echo got to him. But that night it was Jindrak and Stasiak versus Palumbo and O'Hare they were doing a dry run of the tag title match they were doing the next night at Super Brawl. So I'm watching a pay-per-view match in front of 14 people in a tiny church. It was unreal. But Wildside I have some of my favorite memories are there at Wildside. And I still have friendships to this day because of my time spent there. I mean, it was just talk about learning as you go. I mean, because it was so opposite of everything I had been taught because it was always, this is a TV product, find your hard cam, work the roaming cam. The live audience is secondary to your cameras where it's a TV. And I was like, no, brother, let's just grab us a hole and get some pro wrestling in. And so it totally changed the way I viewed how to pro wrestle. And when I was getting in, there was the established guys there, but there was such a swell of younger talent that was just waiting to come through. And, so we all got to learn together. We all got to experience together. But John Phoenix and Jason Cross were kind of the established guys there. And they're John Phoenix to this day, I talk to John Phoenix every day. He lives in Tallahassee. I mean, he's like my go-to guy for everything. Jason Cross, I just talked him into working out at the gym with me again. I mean, this is a guy that's doing shooting star leg drops. That's not a real thing. That's not what gravity lets you do, buddy. I'm struggling to do a standing tuck, and you're doing shooting star leg drops. And then on top of that, you got AJ, who I still every time I see AJ, it's like I saw him yesterday. It's big hugs and talks and jokes, and it's just so many. To this day, I still like will be told like, "Oh, you remember that time? John Moxley was at Wildside." I was like, "No, he wasn't." And people will pull up cards like, "Oh, there he was." Wait, what? Or like Kenny Omega, or it's just insane the number of people that walk through those doors. Unreal. Why? I just on my Facebook, I just posted one of my all-time favorite Wildside memories. So we did an angle where I was doing a finishing move at the time. I called it the Phoenix Fury leg drop. It wasn't a leg drop, and it was called Phoenix because John Phoenix was my dude. And it had nothing to do with anything other than the name popped me. So I was like, "Oh, it's a Phoenix Fury leg drop." Well, we did an angle where it got banned. And so I did a petition, and like this is talk about guerrilla shooting. It was literally me, a cameraman, and a camera going into the city with a blank checklist. Like I'm trying to get this petition signed to bring back the Phoenix Fury leg drop. Who wants to sign it? These people are looking like, what is this crazy man babbling about? But the whole angle was finally I plot this scheme like, oh, I'll just fill in the names, and I'm going to call Bill Behrens out to the ring because he's the NWA representative, and I'm going to make Bill be the last guy to sign the petition to bring the move back. Well, that's all that I was told. Hey, we're going to go guerrilla shoot this. Nobody's going to sign it. You're going to pretend to sign it. And then, Bill will bury it and we'll move on. Like, all right, cool. So I go out to the ring, and it's just one of those, getting to work off somebody so well. So Bill's in the ring, and he's like, "Oh, well, Sal, I don't know how accurate these names are." And I was like, "Bill, come on. Would I ever tell a lie? Like, come on, Bill." And so unbeknownst to me, he starts reading off names just to pop me. So it's all sorts of just like little inside jokes. So he's like the gobbledygooker. I'm like, yeah, of course the gobbledygooker signed my petition. And he lists off He-Man and Skeletor. And I'm like, Bill,
you got to put them in.
It's so important that this move is in business that both sides of good and evil are signing up to do this. And like I said, this is all improv. This is total off-the-cuff stuff. I don't know these names are coming at me. And so finally, Bill, 2 weeks prior to this, I had just wrestled Coco Beware. And which was like, oh my God, I'm wrestling Coco Beware. This is the coolest. And so in the locker room, I had asked Coco, like, hey man, like, where's Frankie? And he's like, hey, actually, Frankie's dead. What? He goes, yeah, I was at church with the family. I came home. There was a fire. Frankie was inside. And he didn't make it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is heartbreaking. I'm so sorry I brought this up. I wish somebody would have told me that Frankie had died. Well, so I'm working Coco that night, right? And obviously I'm the heel. So I'm in the ring and I'm a bad guy. I'm a bad guy. And Coco comes out to the high energy music and he's doing the bird. I'm like, this is great. And Coco gets the live mic and he goes, hey, I know everybody's wondering, where's Frankie? Well, unfortunately, I was at church. There was a house fire, and Frankie didn't make it. And then Coco looks at me and goes, and he's the guy that set the fire. And I was like, oh my God, why did I do that? Oh no, like I'm even hot at myself. So Bill's running down this list of guys, and finally he goes, well, look, it looks like Coco Beware signed this petition, but it also looks like Frankie signed this petition, and I know Frankie couldn't do that because Frankie's dead. I was like, oh no, so but just the inside jabs that he was taking at me, it really, that's one of my all-time favorite Wildside memories. And I was so fortunate to be a part of that locker room with all that crew. I mean, just like I said, so many times, so much talent. Especially, it's so weird because it's just a hole in the wall, little abandoned church in the middle of northeast Georgia that if you looked it up on a map, the map would laugh at you. But Wildside was a great time.
Do you think it give you that grounding early on with them? Yeah.
Absolutely. The thing is, it was great because it was first and third Saturday of every month, so I didn't have to hustle for bookings. I knew I was where I was going to be. I knew that I was going to have something good to do. And like Bill understood even more so than I did, because I started in Wildside at 17. So it's not like I had all sorts of learning to do. Not that I don't now, I still do, but just he was able to utilize me in so many different ways that I didn't even know even at the time, I didn't even understand why or what I was doing. But, I was able to, I have the gift of gab. So like, I was able to manage a lot of guys. So like when Ray Gordy came in, this is the son of Terry Gordy, but he wasn't the best on the mic. And so Bill stuck him with me. And it was just like, hey, you're going to be his representative. And I had no idea. Like, I didn't grasp what I was doing, just that I was doing it. And, when we finally got to the point where he wisened up and turned on me, and he finally gave me that first punch and the crowd popped, I was like, oh, wow. I didn't even understand it. I was just being a goofball. And, like with Ray, I got to do, so like my favorite promo with Ray, we did a backstage where I did the Zach Morris timeout, and I slipped out the back door, and like he came about. And just little things to pop me, like where I used to hard sell that Ray, I love you. I mean, come on, everybody loves Raymond, and am I right? Just things like that. But like, I didn't get why we were doing it or what we were doing. But like I said, once he finally gives you that shot and the crowd goes nuts, like, oh yeah. Or like Bill would let me do commentary, and at the time I was kind of down because I was like, man, I want to work. I'm a wrestler. I want to go wrestle. And I'm like, oh, you're doing commentary tonight. I was like, oh, this is the worst. But now, fast forward 20 years, like, oh, wow, that's just another thing I can offer a promotion. Like, oh yeah, I can manage, I can talk, I can do backstage, so like it was such a good learning ground, and it helped me out so much.
I like the fondness you speak with your time there. I think to segue now into Ring of Honor, and when you were in Ring of Honor, you were part of Special K, but you were known as Mello. You weren't known as Sal Rinauro, were you, initially? Am I right here?
Yeah. So that came about. I mean, I talked about Jimmy earlier. That was one of those Jimmy things where they were doing a show in Dayton, and Jimmy just didn't want to go alone. So he was like, "Hey, Sal, tag along." Absolutely. So I showed up, and Gabe was like, "Oh man, I'm a fan of your work. Do you mind doing a Special K spot tonight?" I said, "No, not at all. That'd be great." And I just happened to be wearing a Carmelo Anthony jersey because I was a Carmelo Anthony fan. And so the whole deal that night was Special K was going to have a special enforcer. So, out rolls Special K and me. Like, yeah, here I am, special enforcer. And then, seconds later, out comes Abyss, who's a little more enforcing than I am. So I got to do the Special K thing, which, like, again, that's one of those things where I kind of lucked into the spot, but like it worked out really well for me. Especially when we did the Special K blow off, we did the Carnage Crew in the cage match, and I got to eat 2 bionic elbows from Dusty Rhodes. Just incredible. Broke a cane over my head. Like, what is happening? Like, this is Dusty Rhodes. Like, why are you elbowing me? And how cool is this? And again, it reminded me a lot of that whole locker room was so ready to take over the wrestling world. And it seemed so unreal at the time that these guys could, but I mean, especially that show I was talking about, that's the one from Elizabethtown where it was Jay versus Joe in a cage.
Oh my days.
And, just the litany. Yeah, just the litany of guys that were on. I mean, it speaks for itself now, hindsight being 2020. Just you look at the Ring of Honor rosters, and it's just like, oh, this is literally where everybody came from. If you wanted to be somebody, you just go there first.
Do you know, from a fan perspective, Sal, do you know what I liked about it? The camera in back in the early days of ROH, that rawness that you got.
Yes.
It was in a gym. It was maybe in a high school gym somewhere, but you got it was just different, and it was so cool how it was shot so rawly. But you had the commentary, and you had the guys, like you say.
Yes, no, and it's funny how it feels different. And
yeah.
I'm real big on I tell kids all the time this, like, different's not bad. I'm not all for doing different just for being different, but being different isn't a bad thing at all. It's okay to have a different feel. And, you know, Ring of Honor was that way. NWA Powerrr was the same way, whereas it was a different feeling. You know, WWE is WWE, and it's always going to be that monster. And, you know, I grew up on it. I still watch it. Like, my son watches it. Like, that's our big bond. One of my our bonds is, you know, watching Raw, watching the pay-per-views, this, that, and the third, you know, and it's so clean and so crisp and so perfect. And that's not bad. That's just what they want to present. But there's also the rawness, like you said, the realness, just the different gritty aspects of like a Powerrr or a Ring of Honor, where it's not glitz and glamour and pretty, and it's not your best china that you bring out to impress the guests. It's the paper plates that you put out to eat on every day, but you still like it, you still love it.
Absolutely, man. And then fast forward in a bit, you were a tag team champion with Tony Mama Luke. I couldn't remember this. This is me doing a bit of research as well on top of what I already knew. I thought that was cool. Tony Mama Luke, ECW alumni.
Oh yeah. So Mama Luke's one of those guys that came to Wildside. After ECW folded, Mama Luke was living in Atlanta. He had moved down to Atlanta, so he was a Wildside staple. And I'm almost 100% sure he hated me because I was always asking him about, you know, hey, what was, you know, remember that time you and Guido were Tajiri and Mikey? Tell me all about it, you know, or just whatever, you know. But just getting to team with him, like, I tell people this a lot. So Mama Luke and I have a great relationship now. I love Tony. We talk sports. He's a good, Tony Mama Luke's a great dude. When we were teaming, it was like cooking oil and sex oil. They're both great when they're used properly. You don't want to mix them up. You want to use them in the proper application. And if he and I would fight over every, you know, like, I pitched that our team name be Sports and Entertainment. And this is 05. This is before it was hard. Sports entertainment. I wanted us to be Sports and Entertainment because he was the mat-based technical, you know, I'm gonna grind you to the mat. And I was more of the outspoken, flamboyant, you know, character. So I thought, that's a good blend. And he was like, hate it. We're going to come out to the Rocky theme. I'm going to have the Italian flag. We're going to have yellow, white, and green tights. And I was like, all right, man, that works. But like that night in New York, you know, like, so we won the tag titles the same night as Joe and Kobashi. So like, yeah, this is already one of the biggest nights of my life. Just like getting to be in the building for that was special on a completely different level. Just absolutely nuts. But at that point, I was fortunate enough because our match wasn't even advertised. It wasn't an advertised match. If you saw like the news wire going into that show, it was going to be me versus Tony Mama Luke. Well, we shot an angle that in ring where Mama Luke says, you know, I don't want to team with you. They've got an open contract for the tag titles. What say you? And I'm like, why not? I'm already here, right? So we wrestled BJ Whitmer and Jimmy Jacobs that night. And we had a really good match. I really enjoyed it. And it's one of the first times in my career where I was able to, we hit the finish, 1, 2, 3, and there was this hushed silence. And it was really weird. And I kind of wasn't in my own head. I kind of experienced it with the audience where there was just this hushed silence. And I kind of looked around, and then one guy started clapping. And then there was this slow build to this really big pop. Like, yeah, we just saw a title change. And I remember standing, like, this is the Manhattan Center. Oh, it's New York City. Oh, I just won the tag. You know, like, how many shows have I seen from the Manhattan Center at this point, you know? And here I am holding the Ring of Honor tag title next to an ECW legend in the man, like, holy unreal moment, you know? And like, I was able to just take that second and drink in this reaction. I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is what it's all about right here. Like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it right now. What a surreal moment. And then like the litany of guys that they lined up for us to work with. I mean, we worked like Homicide and Ricky Reyes. We worked Milano and Milano Collection AT and Colt Cabana. I mean, we had a lot of really good title matches and defenses. And it was just, you know, and then we lost them at Final Battle to Roderick and Austin. So it's just, like I said, like, so much talent I got to share the ring with. It's just an unreal time.
Should have been, I think, on a world scale, it should have been bigger. It should have been. It was big. I'm not taking it away. It was incredible, man. I loved it as an alternative, as you say.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like you were seeing CM Punk, you know, and you could just tell, a mile off when WWE signed him. I know he was down in OVW and stuff like that. You could just tell everyone was so talented, man. And it was great for us. And as you say, you getting to see Kabashi, you know, integrating the Japanese into it. What a great time for you as workers and us as fans.
Yeah, I mean, and this thing is like, one of the reasons Gabe really took a liking to me is because he knew where he could find me during shows, and that was at the curtain. Because like, I was still like, I can't believe I'm on these shows. Like, if I like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, look at how good all these guys are. You know, like, yeah. I mean, like Brian, Daniel Bryan. I mean, like, I will fist fight people. He is the best pro wrestler of his generation. If that's not a slight on anybody else, like I said before, like, I'm friends with AJ, so like,
yeah, man.
I've seen all the talent. Like, there is what a great boom period for in-ring wrestling. Nice. But I don't think there's anybody in this generation better than Brian. I've seen him do so many, just such a wide array of things, and able to make it where, like, I can't say enough good things about Brian. And like, fast forward 20 years, like, I'm in Daniel Bryan's book, which is weird to me. Like, my name is in him anyway. But just like, so that's where Gabe would find me, is at the curtain. Cause, you know, like, I'm watching, like, I couldn't soak in enough. Like, look at this. I'm getting paid to be here to watch this. Like, I would buy these DVDs. Like, don't tell anybody, but like, I'm pulling a fast one on the company because they're giving me money to watch this stuff.
Incredible. I'd tell you another guy, and obviously this is another guy. I felt so bad when his career was cut so short, and it was looking like, you know, he was getting to the elite level. Nigel McGuinness, and obviously on it for us in the UK, I got to see all of it through Ring of Honor, yes. And what a guy. Underrated, should have done more. Absolutely. So
Nigel actually gave me one of the nicest things anybody's ever said to me. So I worked Nigel at the ROH TV tapings in Philly, and I'd worked him 100 times before. And like, Nigel and I always got along. He's just a great human being, on top of the fact that he's really super good at pro wrestling. But I did a TV, one of the TV tapings at the ECW arena, which again, here I am wrestling at the ECW arena. Unreal. But I had wrestled Nigel on night one, and I think I did something with Brian the second night. And then in between that set of tapings and the next set of tapings is when it was announced, oh, Brian's signing, Nigel's signing, they're both going to WWE. And so, you know, as a fan, I'm like, yeah, it's about time. This took too long. But as a person, I was like, man, I'm losing my friends. This sucks. But Nigel pulled me aside. He goes, hey, man, I just want to let you know, like, one of the matches that caught their eye was my TV match with you. And I was like, get out of here. Okay, got it, Nigel, sure. you know, like, and John Lennon's a big fan of mine too. Get out of my face, you know. Like, I like jokes, and he's like, no, for real. Like he said, he said, you know, they were interested before. He said, but the right person just happened to be watching the TV and just happened to watch that match. And I'm, you know, like I'm in there with Nigel. I could have just been a broomstick, and he would have had the same match. I'm not taking any credit, but he was like, I just want to let you know, like, you know, I appreciate it. Like, you really did a lot for me without trying. And I'm like, okay, Nigel. And he's like, no, I'm dead serious. Like, I really appreciate what you did. You know, like, you know how to make guys TV ready. And I was like, oh, well, thanks. What do you say to that? Like, all right, well, you have my blessing, son. Go be super famous. And, you know, I mean, the chips kind of crumbled the way they did, and I genuinely hate it for him. But, like, I just ran into him not too long ago, and he's still in great spirits. I mean, you know, like, he's
got a good gig, and do you know what? He is fantastic on commentary.
He's really good. Yeah,
really good at it. As is Stu Bennett. I know he's gone back. As Wade Barrett to WWE, but it was great seeing him on Power. But those two guys, two great guys flying the flag for UK, and they are fantastic calling the matches, man. They are.
And as a guy from UK, how stupid is it that neither one of them were ever world heavyweight champions?
I know.
Like,
I'll go back further, Sal. Bulldog should have been world champion, and it never happened. It never happened, and it's just like.
I thought for the first time you see Barrett on NXT. I mean, like the minute that guy, you know, I watched NXT obviously for Brian. The first, you know, the pilot episode.
Absolutely.
I'm tuning in. Well, I'm tuning in anyways because it's WWE. It's a new wrestling show. Like, whatever, I'm gonna watch it. But like, oh, Brian's on it. But like, you see this giant man with the crooked nose and this, like, oh, well, he's going to be champion in 3 years. There's just no doubt about it. I would talk about can't miss. I don't understand. And so, like, I got to work with Stu at NWA. I got to do commentary with him. And again, like, that's one of those things where, like, especially in my older age, like, when I get to do something that I can call home and tell my kid about and he pops, I know I'm on the right path, you know? So, like, I got the TV that day, and I'm looking at the run sheet, and it's like, oh yeah, Sal out on commentary with Joe Galley and Bennett. And I was like, you know, I call my son. I'm like, you know, hey, I don't care if you're at school right now. This is more important. Put your pencils down, dude. I mean, this math is never going to help you out, but this news, I'm going to do commentary with Bad News Barrett.
Everything he was given. A look at the Bad News Barrett thing.
Oh yeah,
that was like,
so good.
That was the hottest segment of the show. Some weeks on. I know.
Absolutely.
Whatever they gave him, he could do it all right. But the League of Nations, it was a bit iffy that didn't get over. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But everything that guy's been given.
No, he's a money. Yeah, he's a money guy. And again, he's one of those guys that, like, even afterwards, I was like, hey, you know, when we did the commentary thing, I was like, everything okay? And he was like, oh, mate, you know, you gave me something to feed off of. You were able to talk. You know, it was great. I'm just like, dude, I don't know if you know who you are, but, like, this is awesome. This is a big deal for me. So, like, it's still, I mean, I'm 21 years into wrestling. Like, I just realized this a couple days ago that, like, my wrestling career is old enough to legally drink. I don't know if that's awesome or depressing. I'll get back to you on that. But, like, it's still the little things like that where, like, guys that I view as, like, supremely talented and 8 levels above me, when they say, like, hey, man, yeah, no, you're good. Like, that still takes me back. Like, oh, wow, that's really cool.
So awesome. I think this is a perfect way to segue into NWA Powerrr now, man. And Kyle touched upon a story. Now, I spoke to you about this yesterday. Yes. I give you a little tidbit of information. Sean Mooney was on a few of the shows, and I am like you and Kyle, nostalgia. He was the man, the event center, all of that. What was your story with Sean Mooney backstage that day at NWA Powerrr at the taping?
Okay, so at the time, whatever the date of the taping was, we were sitting in the stands waiting for the show to start. I mean, call time was super early. So Kyle and I, maybe somebody else, were just, talking up life, blah, blah, blah. I've known Kyle forever. Kyle's a great friend. So we're talking up life. And for whatever reason, it dawned on me. I said, hey, man, whatever happened to that squared circle show we were doing? And Kyle goes, oh, we're still shooting it. I was like, oh, okay. I just haven't heard anything. He goes, wait. You haven't heard who the new host is, have you? I was like, no, who? And he goes, Sean Mooney. Wait, what? The Sean Mooney? He goes, yeah, he's here. Don't you lie to me. Yeah, you can lie to me about a lot of things. Don't you just throw Sean Mooney's name out there and expect me not to punch you in the mouth if you're lying. He's like, yeah, he's somewhere backstage. So instantly, I'm up and out. I'm on this one-man manhunt for Sean Mooney. And I'm, tearing through every corridor. Like, one of my favorite parts, so I bust through the backstage door, and there's Sandow, Aaron Stevens. Yeah. And he goes, hey, are you okay? And I go, dude, Sean Mooney's here. He was like, what? I was like, I know, right? He's like, where? I was like, I don't know. I'm looking for him. He goes, well, let me know because I want to talk to him. I was like, exactly. It's Sean freaking Mooney.
Oh, man.
So I'm everywhere I could think of. I mean, and it's almost sitcom-like now when I go back and think about it, because I am like running down the hallways, and there's Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson to my left, and Homicide and Eddie Kingston to my right, and I'm Heisman stepping them and trying to, bust through the line because I'm just trying to find Sean Mooney, and I can't find him. And I'm like, man, Kyle lied to me. Kyle's a dirty liar. And keep in mind, Kyle's behind me in my smoke because I couldn't move fast enough. And so finally, I turn a corner and bam, Mooney. And I was like, oh my God, that's Sean. Like, oh, John, thank you so much for raising me because my father wasn't there. You're literally the guy that told me everything I needed to know about life. He's just like, and I still have the pictures of my phone of me, and like I could not believe, and like that's one of those where thanks to the network, my eldest son doesn't care about wrestling, can't stand it. I think it's because I was on the road a lot when he was a baby. Yeah. So he's bitter, kind of. Yeah. Not outwardly bitter, but it's just like a internal thing.
He wanted his dad home.
Yeah, but my younger son is all in. I mean, he reminds me so much of me. He's 10 now. And thanks to the network, he's aware of who Sean Mooney is. So, like, that was one of those, Jacob, Sean Mooney's here. He's like, what? Sean Mooney. I was like, I know, Sean Mooney. And he's like, I could have probably talked to him for 700 hours. And he was like, I got work to do. I was like, I don't care. Yeah. I need to know everything about everything. Talk to me. Just sell me on Nails and Boss Man. Do it. Let me know what's going on, man. And he's just like so cool, but here I am, a grown man tearing through locker rooms like an insane person just because I want to see Sean Mooney. And then later on, I'd say about a week later, he posted the group photo of the NWA group. And he said, this is family. And I'm not big on like posting online, but I saw that and I said, I got it. I got to shoot my shot. So I responded, even me? And he was like, of course you, Sal. And I was like, he knows my name. Sean Mooney knows my name. I've done it, guys.
That's incredible. That'd be me. That'd be me if I was in your shoes. I would have to meet the guy. I'd tell you what as well, just to go into him and what he was doing in podcasting. His prime time with Sean Mooney, I will say it now, it's done very well. It's charted highly as it should do in the wrestling charts. It was the best podcast going, and then he doesn't do it anymore, man.
Yeah, he just bailed. Yeah, that's the thing is like I'm hoping, because like I'm waiting any day now. I think honestly, any day now, I think we're gonna have an announcement about Powerrr returning. Like I just feel it in my bones. Yeah, this is not inside information. So don't write the headline. Powerrr's coming back.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Hopefully soon. I just got a sense that it's coming. I feel that underswell. And one of the things I hope, because it seems like every week when I turn on TV, somebody from Powerrr is on TV. And I keep hoping, let's get back before Mooney gets signed. Come on. let's just, as long as you give me Sean Mooney, we'll make this whole program work.
Who do you want to work with once it's back? Who's on Sal's list?
Well, obviously, I mean, so like I said, 21 years. I've been loosely affiliated with the NWA since the Wildside days. So we're talking, my first Wildside show was November of '99. So I mean, I've been affiliated with the NWA for a long time, and I've never got a shot at the world title. So Aldis right now is performing on a big league level. I mean, he's in that position for a reason. That's not an accidental thing or a, hey, we got nobody else. I don't mean to disparage him, but this isn't like a Ronnie Garvin situation where, hey, we got to put the belt on somebody. Like, Aldis is the champion because he's the champion. Yeah, I mean, he is a champion. And so he's definitely on my, I just one shot at the world title. I would love, that's just one of those things where, like, that is definitely a bucket list thing. I want to get a shot at the NWA World Heavyweight title, the one that I saw Flair carry, the one that I saw Dusty and Harley and all those guys. I definitely want to, that's number one on my list. But there's a lot of guys there that I'm just such a wide array of guys. Like, I think I can do fun stuff with Trevor Murdoch. I did the karate exhibition with Aaron Stevens. I'd like to, I'd like to get a second go round with that.
Yeah. It was cool. It was so good. I'm going to say what I said to Kyle, but you haven't heard it. I just said that 45, 50 minutes to an hour, it was so fast paced and you got so much out of it. And then, when the bigger companies are doing 2-3 hours, I can't sit through 2-3 hours like I used to. I like Powerrr was perfect in duration. Perfect.
Absolutely.
A bit like MLW Fusion. It's nice and concise the way they do it.
Concise, absolutely. Yeah. And this thing is like, it's funny because if you would have told 10-year-old Sal, like, hey, there's 3 hours of wrestling on Monday night, there's 4 hours of wrestling on Wednesday night, there's 2 hours of wrestling on Friday night, I'd be like, yeah, there should be. This is the best. But it's a lot to bear as a fan. And I mean, I still watch it because what else I got going on, right? But I love wrestling, so I'm going to watch it. But that Powerrr show, that's the thing is like, I'm so deep in the business at this point. I'm so ingrained. It's such a part of me that it's hard for me to subjectively watch wrestling. There's times where I just watch it out of habit, and it's not even, I can't wait to see this. It's just on. I know it's on, so that's what it's on. But I like to use my son as the litmus test because that's the audience that they're trying to reach anyways. They've already got my money. I mean, million wrestling toys behind me. Yeah. I've got the network, whatever. If they're selling it, I'm buying. But I like to use my son as a litmus test just to see if it's something that entertains him. And he always looked forward to Powerrr. He was excited about the new episodes. And especially, going back to this, me being an old man and you young kids with your short-term attention span, he would sit through the whole thing without a problem. Some of those 3-hour Raws are a struggle for him. But he would sit through Powerrr with ease and then still want more. They're like, you'll get more next week.
I'm not Sal. I'm not one of these people. I know, like internet wrestling community, man. Some of the bashing that goes on, I've never. Yes. I don't like to talk negatively about anything that I see. There's too much of a forum for it. And then other people believe what they're reading from other people. They don't think for themselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
At the end of the day, the thing I say to these people is, could you get in there and do it? No, you couldn't. Could you spend all the time on the road? No, you couldn't. So they're all very quick, and everyone's a storyline writer as well. They couldn't write wrestling.
Yeah.
It's too much negativity, Sal.
I agree. And this thing is like, I'm real big on being a positive force. You know, like I said, like it's funny what, you know, like they say kids will change you. Like 100%, like there's so much negativity out there that like I only try to surround my house and my friends and my kids and everything with positivity, because there's enough negativity without it. So like I tell, you know, like if people come to me and complain, oh, I hate this, just don't watch it. It's like, it's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Just don't watch it. I watch it because I like it. I mean, like I said, part of it is just the habit of, well, Monday night I put on wrestling, but like, I also couldn't imagine not putting on, Lord forbid the Westminster Dog Show ruined my, you know, like stupid dogs. U.S. Open, I still get that fear when the U.S. Open comes around. Like, don't you dare!
They put it on the ticker, don't they? On the bottom of the screen. You're like, get away! Yeah.
But yeah, like this thing is like that's one thing I try to project too. Is at the end of the day, I'm a wrestling fan. I love wrestling. I love pro wrestling. Love it. You know, like all forms of it. Like there's people that don't necessarily like the WWE product right now, and that's fine. Again, like if you don't like it, don't watch it. You're telling me there's a show that features guys like AJ and Brian and Ricochet and Cesaro and, you know, Drew McIntyre, who's insanely, like, poor guy. Like I say it a lot, like the pandemic hit for me at the worst time possible, just because like I was just starting to get my foothold in power, and like there was so many good things that I had kind of heard through the grapevine that were coming. But man, as bad as I had it, poor Drew McIntyre. Good God. This guy is on fire.
Oh, I mean, my days.
He's the definition of everything you'd ever want out of a pro wrestler. And he's got this one moment at WrestleMania and can't do it in front of anybody. Like, oh, man, like that's my heart goes out to him big time. But like, again, I get to see him every week. Yeah, I'll tune in. You got me. You know, like
he's so good. He's been so good, man, and he had that time away, and we're so proud. We're so proud over here. We finally had a UK world champion, and it was just the timing. But he's made the best of it, and he's done.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing is, like, I think 20 years from now, it would be an interesting study to go back, just to like really view what this guy has done. I mean, I know he's not alone, but I mean, he's been the face of the company, whether you want it to be or not, especially when Roman took his time off. Like, Drew was the guy that made sure, like, hey, there's got to be some kind of consistency and some kind of champion. And, like, I mean, his work has been beyond spectacular.
I see negativity about him, and I've heard negativity. I've been on shows and I'm like, no. And then they go to me, yeah, because he's from the UK. I said, that's got nothing to do with it. Take the nationality out of it. The guy, Brock Lesnar made the guy look $1 million in the Rumble. Then they had the match at WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar won't put you over if you don't think you've got it.
You know, it's foolish. And that's the thing is, I think that's a lot of it is people trying to have, I got a hot take. Drew McIntyre's not the guy. Oh, you're insane. I don't even know how else to put it.
Say it to him. Say it to him. I dare you.
This thing is like, so he's one of those guys, the takeover where he was in the crowd. I had taken both my boys down that was in Orlando. So I took the kids down there for that whole weekend. We went to the takeover. To this day, that Hardy Boys pop. And that's not days, Mom. It was outside and that thing reverberated. Like that was and like that was one of those things that, again, like I know Gallows, I know some of those guys. So I had kind of got the word, but I did everything I could to protect that secret from my kids. Cause like it was already ruined for me. I didn't want to ruin it for them. So when New Day came out and like Xavier Woods is one of my guys. Like he's just one of my kids, and so my kids call him Uncle Austin. Like, you know, like so I kind of got the word that like, oh yeah, there's, you know. So when New Day came out, I could tell my youngest son was like, oh yeah, I guess they should be in this match. And when that music hit, it was legitimately one of those, no way, is this real? It's like. like both my kids gave me the look like, is this really happening? And pure joy. But tying into Drew McIntyre, the night before when he was seated at TakeOver, I saw him take his seat. I didn't say anything. My buddy that was with me, I was like, hey, but like I didn't tell my kid. So when it showed up on the monitor, he was like, wait, is that Drew Galloway? I was like, no, son, that's Drew McIntyre. And he was stoked. So like he's got that connection with him. We're like, oh, I was there that night. He came
Absolutely,
back.
man. Moments you can't put a price on their moments, man. I was watching that WrestleMania. We've got there's a city up in England, up the north near Scotland, quite away from Scotland. I was in Newcastle, and it was basically like a WrestleMania party. We were there for a bachelor party. And
And
I mean, I've done 7 WrestleManias, Sal, but it was still cool because I was with the lads on this bachelor stag party, and we watched it there. We had like our own section. We had table service,
awesome.
but I just wish I was where you were at the Orange. I'm trying to think of the stadium because I went.
Now it's not the Orange Bowl anymore. Now it's Camping World Stadium. Yeah,
because I was there for WrestleMania 24.
Okay, yeah, I was there too.
All right, man. Yeah. We were both there. So yeah, just as you say, the Hardys. Look at the amount of years they've been doing it, man. It's just and still prevalent now. It's
awesome. And those are the like I was saying earlier about like doing these podcasts reminds me of stuff. I just did a podcast a couple of weeks ago that I had totally forgotten about, but I forgot at one point in TNA, I did a spot where I was dressed up like Jeff Hardy. This is summer of 2005, I think.
Yeah.
Where it had to have been. So this is when Matt had gotten fired from WWE because the whole Edge and Lita deal, and it looked like he was about to come to TNA. Well, I completely forgot I did this till I brought it up. So I did a spot at Slammiversary where Jarrett was supposed to be in the King of the Mountain match, and he didn't want to lose the King of the Mountain match, so he was getting himself removed. So they had me dress up as Jeff Hardy, and he pulled me over the guardrail and blasted me with a guitar. And I that wasn't even in my brain. And then somebody mentioned, oh yeah, and there's that time you dressed like Jeff Hardy. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh yeah. Yeah, that's cool, man. I took a guitar shot from Jarrett. I dressed up like Jeff Hardy on pay-per-view. Yeah, I've had a good run.
It's so cool, man. So, where can we find you? I know you were saying about social media and that. Where can we find you in terms of social media? And also, if you want to plug some stuff, plug away, man.
Okay, yeah, you can find me at Sal Rinauro on Twitter. That's RINAURO. A lot of vowels. I didn't pick the name. You can find me at Facebook, same name, Sal Rinauro. I am on Instagram at Sal_Rinauro because I am not technologically literate. And when setting up at Sal Rinauro, I pressed the wrong button. So at Sal Rinauro on Twitter, Sal Rinauro on Facebook, Sal_Rinauro on Instagram. I also have a Pro Wrestling Tees store, ProWrestlingTees.com/Sal Rinauro. I also got these. You want to contact me about these? It's my pal Sal. I got these for sale. You can easiest DM me on any of the social medias. I'll be more than happy to make that work for you. And that's about it as far as the socials. Like I said, I've been staying active around the Georgia scene. I'm doing the Lariato Pro for Luke Gallows. I actually got that coming up this weekend. I'm wrestling John Schuyler, who I've known Schuyler for a long time. I'm really looking forward to. This is actually the second time I've ever worked him. The first time was almost 10 years ago. So he's come a long way and done a lot of things in that time. So I'm looking forward to mixing it up with him. I've got Southern Fried Wrestling coming up. I've got Peach State Wrestling Alliance coming up. And fingers crossed, and, like we said, hopefully we'll have NWA Powerrr up and running sooner, much, much more sooner than later. And you can catch your pal Sal, hopefully.
That's good. That's good that you got stuff on the calendar with everything that's been going on. That's good to hear with the uncertainty. Absolutely.
Yes, no, I've been very fortunate to stay active and busy through all this craziness, and hopefully we can keep plodding through and have a good time on the other side.
My guest, all the way from Macon, Georgia, by way of California,
California,
NWA Powerrr talent, Mr. Sal Rinauro. Thank you very much for coming on Stu's Wrestling Podcast today. It's been a blast, man. Really enjoyed it. I've had fun, man.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So cool, man. This episode is brought to you in association with Powerrr TV, so go and check them out for anything wrestling related, old events, new events when we come out of COVID, podcasts, you name it, it's all there at Powerrr TV, so find them across social media.